going to stand where I'm sort of facing everyone.
From these doors to where you're on the video.
Got it, okay.
Go beyond that door.
Good to know. All right, good to know. Anyway, welcome everyone. As the planning committee for this event, actually, obviously you can tell we're not football fans because once the Seahawks were out of it, I stopped paying attention. So I think we didn't realize it was Super Bowl Sunday. So thank you for being here. We will get you out on time, we promise. Anyway, I just want to welcome you on behalf of the Bankhead Schaefer family. I'm Maria Rochelle, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of our heart for being here actually and sharing this this life celebration for Ruth actually. What I'd like to do is just take a moment to read her obituary. So it's on the back of your program. If you'll read along with me. So Ruth Ann Bankhead Schaefer of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, passed away peacefully at the University of North Carolina Medical Center, surrounded by her family and friends on January 24th, 2022, at the age of 53. Ruth is survived by her husband, Philip Schaefer, of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, parents, Royce and Sharon Bankhead of Franklin, Tennessee, brothers, Richard and his wife, Tamar, of Aviano, Italy, Timothy Bankhead and his wife, Katie, Franklin, Tennessee, and sister Ramona Bankhead and her husband, James, from Clifford, Virginia. Her 10 nieces and nephews and lifelong friends, myself, Maria Rochelle, and Patricia Soto. Ruth was born on October 15, 1968 at Bethesda, Maryland, to Royce and Sharon Bankhead. She was the oldest of 4 children. She attended Chantilly High School, Class of 86, George Mason University, and the Medical College of Georgia, where she earned a Bachelor's of Science in Diagnostic Medical Sonography. Ruth enjoyed a long career as an ultrasonographer at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where she had been employed for 23 years. She enjoyed the challenging discipline of ultrasound and had numerous specialty certifications. Prior to that, Ruth traveled extensively around the United States as a contract staff ultrasonographer. Her favorite assignment was in Hawaii, where she embraced the culture of Hawaiian life and became an avid scuba diver. Ruth met her husband, Phil, in November 1999 in Durham, North Carolina. It was love and appreciation at first sight, and they married the following spring on May 3rd, 2000, on Anna Maria Island, Florida. They made their home in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Ruth had many hobbies. She enjoyed being active and loved the art and beauty of Tai Chi. She embraced the outdoors and spent much of her time as possible on long walks discovering nature preserves and hikes off the beaten path. Ruth also had a huge affinity for animals. She shared an unconditional love for her dog Bogey and enjoyed visits to local farms where she especially enjoyed baby animals because they brought joy to her core. Ruth was an avid traveler. In her younger years, she did a great deal of international traveling, seeing as much of Europe as possible. Later, she focused on Ireland, which was her favorite. She also loved to visit friends and family around the U.S. She once said, "As long as I have enough energy and good health to travel and see friends and family, I am happy." Ruth appreciated spending time with her nieces and nephews and enjoyed being a part of their lives as they became capable and responsible young adults. She somehow miraculously never forgot a birthday. Ruth will be remembered as a gentle and loving spirit who never spoke an unkind word. She never knew a stranger and would help anyone in need. She had a high level of faith, and her love and friendship were unwavering to all that knew her. Special thanks to all her ultrasound colleagues at UNC and to the medical providers, nurses, and staff who cared for Ruth in her last hours at UNC Medical Center. Thank you. Before I move on, I'd like to share a little bit about this picture. I know we're going to do sharing later, but this picture on the front of the program is a picture I took of Ruth when she was visiting me in Washington. I just moved to Florida about 6 months ago, but I lived in Washington State for 26 years, and of those 26 years, 17 of them I lived in Skagit Valley. And Ruth loved to travel. She would love to come out and visit, and on people's bucket list for their lives, they would want to come and see the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. And somehow Ruth hit the Tulip Festival twice, and people would come and go and miss the tulips because due to depending on how cold the winter was, and it was a blooming crop. So if the winter was really cold, or if the winter was really warm, and there's a lot of sun, then the tulips would come early or they would come late and people would miss it. And they would travel all the way out just to see the tulips and maybe miss it. Somehow Ruth without any planning at all, got to see the tulips twice actually. So she had zero planning in 2015 and 2019. She just came out for a visit, and I said, Ruth, by the way, it's tulip season, so let's go look at them. So it was always fun, and so the first time I thought it was a mistake or a hoax. The second time, somehow she hit it right on again. And so we were blessed to share that memory together. So that's a picture of Ruth in the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. I would like to read a poem by Christina, Rosetti. And this reminds me really of Ruth, actually. When I found this poem, it really reminded me of Ruth and her love of people and just kind words and a gentle spirit. And she just wanted people to be happy around her. And she went to lengths to ensure that to happen. It's titled, Let Me Go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long. And not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey we must all take, and each must take alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go.
First, I'm going to be reading from Psalm 121, 1 through 2. I lift my eyes towards the mountains, where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And Psalm 16:6 says, the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. And lastly, Ruth 1:16 says, wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God.
I'm Ruth's little big brother. That's what she used to call me. And I have the honor today of celebrating Ruth's life with you for a few minutes. And I want to start with talking about growing up with Ruth. My twin sister and I are 5 years younger. And to kind of set the context, especially for the nieces and nephews, I'm going to talk about what it was like to grow up in the 70s. There were no microwaves, no cell phones. The home computer really wasn't around yet. Most people didn't have VHS recorders yet to record television. When you went to go get music, you went to get records. And a lot of children don't even know what those are, which later became cassettes. To children growing up in the 70s, the bicycle was the main means of transportation. Although only they didn't look like bicycles today. They had banana seats, and they had lowrider handlebars. And we thought we were very cool. And I can't believe how many miles we traveled on those, and no helmets. How did we ever survive? Skating was huge. So much so we even had skates that you could strap on onto your shoes. They were terrible, but we all had them. We all wore bell bottoms, corduroy. You remember that distinct sound the corduroy used to make? Tube socks, tight t-shirts with bright designs on them. In those years, Ruth was developing to be the person that she was. And she was born at a good time. Parenting was free range. Children roamed the earth like ants. We were free. We could go anywhere, unattended. It was a great time to grow up. And so those neighborhood friendships and relationships and who you had backing you up was so important. We would disappear after school until dinner, and then after dinner till dark, and sometimes until after dark, and no one was concerned. That's just the way it was. In the Bankhead family, like a lot of other families, we had our normal ways and traditions, starting with church life. We were very active at first Arlington Church of Christ, and then Fairfax. And I didn't realize how much of Ruth's life was at Arlington until Ramona stumbled across a Bible that said that she was baptized there at 10 years old. So she spent a lot more time in Arlington than we did. But the rest of us knew Fairfax as our church home. And on any given weekend, if you're looking for the Bankheads, you would probably find them fishing somewhere. Maybe the Shenandoah River or Burke Lake or Walden Pond up in Northern Virginia. Or camping, or going on a road trip that involved camping and fishing.
And a porta potty in the middle of the van.
And a
That
porta
we would
potty.
put a blanket around us and use
That's
while
right.
we were going down the road because we didn't have to have a seatbelt on.
That's right.
But it was embarrassing. and
The only
it
thing that looked like car seats looked more like high chairs, right? It did absolutely no good in an accident.
I don't know.
Then on the evenings during the week, you would find the Bankheads probably watching shows like The Muppet Show. And Phil shared with me that Ruth in the morning, when she would get ready, would say, "It's time to start the music, it's time to light the lights, it's time to meet the Muppets on The Muppet Show tonight." That's how she would start her day. So she was definitely a child of the 70s. And of course, with my family, you would find us gathering around for the Charlie Brown specials that you couldn't miss because you couldn't record it for the various seasons. And we would never, ever, never miss a Redskins game. It was a very important part of our family life. We were all fans. Some of us kind of claimed some Texas roots and I rooted against with Cowboys, but we won't go there. But who did Ruth become during this time? Who did Ruth become? She was a tomboy. She was a real tomboy. She was this lean, long, red-headed, 13, 14-year-old. And there's a picture of her showing her muscles. And she was tough, and she was kind of the neighborhood policewoman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in families there are pecking orders, and it's probably unusual, but Ruth and I never ever got into a fight, physical fight, but it was because I always knew Ruth would win.
That's right.
Once, when she was in high school, she had a weight set, and I used it, and she did not like that. And she picked me up by my shirt with both hands and said, "Don't use my weights again."
Yes.
And I said, "Okay." She's very strong.
She was horrifically strong, scarily strong.
We were afraid of Ruth.
And I might have missed my order up here a little bit, but that's okay. She got disappointed because I'm a big boy, and when I hit around 215 and she was taking jiu-jitsu at George Mason, she was disappointed she could no longer throw me. But she was a tomboy. She was a fisherwoman. She was an athlete. She played for the CYA, and they won a championship and somehow got to go sit in the Oval Office with Ronald Reagan, which was kind of interesting. I don't know where that picture is, but I'd like to find it if I could. Which is really, really kind of neat. And I may not remember all these right, because I was pretty young at the time. But during that time, she also developed her skills as an artist. She loved art. She loved to cook at a young age. And more than that, for her brothers and sisters, she saw herself as a protector. She didn't boss us like a mom, but just like the big sister that she was. And I think everyone around us knew that if they wanted to do something to us, they'd have to get through our sister Ruth. The Fairfax County Public School Systems, for 8 consecutive years, the teachers had bankheads, and Ruth led the way. I can't tell you how many times over those years that the teacher's first question at the beginning of the school year, "Are you Ruth's brother?" And that set an expectation for how we would behave and what we would do in those classes.
Yes, can I interrupt you once more?
Sure.
Okay, so in 7th grade, at the homeroom, everybody read Great Expectations. So when I started 7th grade started to read Great Expectations, they told me, "You know, your sister that was here before you started a I Hate Pip," the main protagonist of Great Expectations club that was meeting here at the school called I Hate Pip.
Yes.
So we had to live down what Ruth trailblazed before us.
That's right. Sometimes she trailblazed a little too hard. But I loved especially things that she loved because there was an expectation on me. I took art all through high school and junior school because that was a subject she loved and her teachers loved her so much. Then when we got into the latter years, we took advantage of the vocational school at Chantilly High School, and Ruth fell in love with health sciences, which later led to her career, and developed friendships that lasted her whole life. She also in those times became the driver of all these little rugrats that were her brothers and sisters, and a chauffeur. And it could have been out of necessity, but I don't ever remember it being a burden to her. She started a job in high school working at baguettes at the Fair Oaks Mall, which is a French bakery. And let me tell you, she would work at closing and bring home croissants and chocolate croissants in the morning. There's nothing quite like that.
And you're missing one thing.
What am I missing?
She would take the croissants that she had, and she would swap them with the Mrs. Fields people and bring home
That's
Mrs.
right.
Fields cookies in the
That's
morning.
right. She
And
would
we-
barter for Mrs. Fields cookies
Yeah.
too.
And when Ruth left to go to college in Georgia, we were so sad. It was just, our fixer was gone.
So Ruth is solely responsible for my brother and I being overweight. But she would take us out to things randomly that it's like, what big sister does this? She took us to a midnight showing of the most recent James Bond movie. And I have no idea why she did that. And I think some of us fell asleep for it. But it's just the kind of big sister that she was. And the other thing is, her friends were our friends. Even to this day, we knew Rory and Musa and Leslie, people who are here with us today, because that's just the way that Ruth was. She never had a friend that wasn't a friend with her other friends. While growing up, she developed so many traits that we today admire in her. And I'm going to talk about those in just a minute. But I just want to pause here for just a minute. I'm going to still keep this positive, but I think there's some things that Ruth might want us to know. And I'm going to I'm going to grab a sip of water here. You know, Ruth was a very spiritual person. Last 23 years, she worked on the weekends, which is a normal time for people to gather to worship corporately. But she was a very spiritual person and had a lot of spirituality in her life. And when things got tough for her, you know, she turned to God, and she wanted Ramona and I to know that. I wanted you to know that too. And I take some solace in that and some comfort in that. And she still had that comfort and that outlook. And for Ruth, I think there was something that she couldn't see in her life that I think she sees now. Ruth was a do-it-yourselfer before that was a thing. She was like the original do-it-yourselfer. Incredibly independent. She spent her life's energy doing things for others, and all the while had such a hard time accepting help from others and letting others have that blessing. Over the last 2 decades, Ruth would come and visit our family, and we'd always try to give her some downtime. And whenever we did, she would find something to do for us to fill that time with. That's just the way she was. So sometimes too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And I think she would want us to know today that if we find ourselves in that situation, to ask for help and to accept it. I think she'd want people here today to know that. And then lastly, you know, when we lose someone young, and I've been to far too many funerals of babies and young people, when we lose someone young, one thought that comes to mind is perhaps God spared them from some future that we just can't see. Being finite beings, we don't know what the future holds. And I think that for Ruth, and that gives me some comfort. And I thought maybe that might give others comfort in this room today. Okay, that's the tough stuff. I'm done. Back to celebration. If I could give some awards to Ruth, there would be many. And the first one would be lifestyle design. She was a champion of lifestyle design. It was already mentioned in the extended obituary, but after she completed school, she took temporary assignments to travel. And she would make a point to go places that she loved. But what you may not know is she also went places that were near family on purpose. So while Ramona and I were in school, Richard may have been in Fort Smith, I don't recall, in Arkansas. She took a job in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And I remember that trip because we went up to visit her and she found Lambert's, where they throw the rolls at you. Have you ever heard of that place? And that's a special memory that I have of her because she made that effort. She also took a job in Hays, Kansas. Hays, Kansas is in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason to go to Hays, Kansas. And she took that job so we could come and visit her. So she worked for 5 months just for one visit. It's just the way she was. Incidentally, there is a really good space museum in Hays, Kansas, and we did go to it. But of those early years, you know, she was already in this mode of lifestyle design, and then she met Phil. And Phil and Ruth continued those adventures. Not working during the week gave them many opportunities to travel and see things that most of us don't. And Ruth and Phil made many adventures, both foreign and domestic. What I can say of Ruth is, you know, all of us probably have bucket lists, but most of us don't cross them off. But I think Ruth did a better job than most. She really did get to do the things that she wanted to do. I don't know who came up with the phrase, but it's a good one. Tomorrow is a mystery, yesterday is history, but today is a gift, and that's why we call it the present. Ruth lived in the present. She lived in the moment. And that's a trait that we all could learn from. The second thing is Ruth spent a lifetime helping others, and I'm not going to spend much time on that because Richard wants to elaborate on that. Richard flew in from Italy to be here today. So he's going to talk about that a little bit. But Ruth was certainly one of the most generous and selfless people I've ever known. And that's something that I think we can all emulate and aspire to be. Ruth was also the person that connected the Bankhead family. In many families, the mother will become that person. For the Hinckley family, it was Becky Hinckley. For Katie's family, it was Karen Stepanek, her mother. But for the Bankheads, it was a daughter. It was Ruth. She made time and effort to keep up with all of us and share what was going on in each other's lives and give gifts to nieces and nephews and generally stay connected. She does the same thing with friends, and I'll touch on that separately, but she kept us connected. That was the way Ruth worked. Ruth had a deep appreciation for her teachers and mentors. And she stayed connected with them as well. I mentioned I had a fondness for art as well, and I can't remember how many times, sometimes 5 or 6 years removed from that teacher, that the teacher during the week would say something about Ruth. It's the kind of impression she made. And also on the healthcare side with Mrs. Moss, and we lost just recently, that became this lifelong relationship as well. And I think we can take that attribute with us. Take time to appreciate our mentors and our teachers. And then, probably one of the most poetic and beautiful things about Ruth is her incredible loyalty to her friends. The name Ruth means friend. That's what the translation of Ruth is. And as Jillian read to us, I think Ruth exemplified the words in that verse, "Your people shall be my people, nothing but death will separate us." When Ruth was your friend, she was a friend for life. That's the way she did things. We have this saying in our culture called the fun uncle. You don't hear fun aunt, maybe that's just presumed, but Ruth was a fantastic aunt. And she has 10 blood nieces and nephews that she made special relationships with. And beyond that, her friends' children she became an adopted aunt to those people as well. She was a constant encourager and cheerleader. She never judged. Ruth had this endearing quality of making them feel like they were the most important people in the world. And I think that kind of sums up who Ruth was. To know her made you feel like an important person. And that's Ruth. So at this time, I'm going to say a prayer on behalf of Ruth, and then I'm going to turn it over to Richard. Our Heavenly Father, we come together today with broken hearts. We're just now starting to feel the absence of Ruth. And yet today we celebrate her life. We learn from her example. She seized the day. And help us to learn from that and not ponder too much on the future or on the past, but take moments in the days and weeks to come and seize those memories that we've had of Ruth and live our lives through some of the examples that she set for us. In addition to that, Lord, we pray today that many who've come from long ways to honor and respect Ruth, and we pray for their safe journeys back to their homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Loosen my tie, and I think that my voice is loud enough that I can be heard without a microphone. Is that right? Very well? Okay, good, because I do not like holding the microphone. So, as Timothy mentioned, I'm Ruth's other brother, who's a little less than 2 years younger than her. And our father is alive and well and in Tennessee, but he could not be here. And what our father liked to do when we were in church is he liked to give presentations about songs and say something neat about them, where they came from. And I'm going to channel him a little bit by doing that today. We're going to have the full version of the song up, but just play the first verse and the chorus. Before Noah advances to the next slide, I had planned on starting and talking about this hymn. It's a hymn that Ruth and I had sung when we were in church in Arlington especially, and it's something that came to mind when I heard the news about Ruth. Now, these are our children, Naomi and David, and that's a picture of me and Ruth. And David is happiest when he's with his big sister. So, in fact, when Naomi comes home from swim practice, David knows what time it is. And he runs around saying, Naomi's coming back, Naomi's coming back. And when she comes, I'll be okay. When she comes home, he says, I miss you, Naomi. I love you. You're the best sister in the world. So David knows the importance of a big sister. So, my wife is a doctor, and she works with other doctors and psychologists. And we talked to a child psychologist about the best way to tell him about his Aunt Ruth. So the day that I was leaving, I told David, my sister, your Aunt Ruth died, and I'm going back to the United States for 4 days, where we're going to have a party and celebrate Ruth and say goodbye. And David said, well, 4 days isn't that long. And I took him to school, at the Italian school he goes to. And then at 3 o'clock, I picked him up, and we were walking through the Italian square by the church. He hugged my leg. And he said to me, Dad, don't feel bad about your sister, your big sister going away. You will be with her again. And he said, because. I stopped and I looked him in the eyes and asked, because why, David? And he said, because she's in the Bible. Now, I don't know how 5-year-old's brains work. He may be thinking because her name is Ruth and there's a book of Ruth, or maybe just that was the best way he had to say what he thought. Next slide. So going back to my dad, this song was written in 1882 by a minister in Washington, D.C., not far from the church we went to in Arlington. And he had a weekly choir practice, and he wanted a song for the end of the choir practice. And so what he did is he looked in the dictionary and he looked up the word goodbye. And he looked up the meaning of the word goodbye and what its origin was. The origin of goodbye was actually, people used to say, God be with ye, and then God be with you, as ye, thee, and thou turned into the modern versions. But it eventually, in the late 16th century, became goodbye. So when I told David we're going to say goodbye to Ruth, what we're really going to say to her is, God be with you. So when you say goodbye, you're saying a version of that. Next slide, please. And then this song that I remember singing with Ruth says, we will meet at Jesus' feet. God be with you till we meet again. Next slide, please. And in the Bible, when Jesus was confronted by the Sadducees who were trying to get him to admit there was no resurrection, he talked about how God, when he introduced himself to Moses, said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not, I was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said, God is the God of the living, not the dead. Now, also Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount, the second beatitude, says, blessed are those who mourn, so they shall be comforted. David's idea of comfort was, you'll be with me again. Next slide. Ruth, as Roy wrote from his obituary, loved Ireland. So I looked up the Irish blessing. I found out that it was actually used as a prayer and a blessing. You actually prayed for someone with it. And the end line of it, originally in Gaelic, but the translation in English is, and until we meet again, and God hold you in the palm of his hand. So when I think of Ruth, that's where I think she is. Next. In a similar way, something came to my mind when I heard the news about Ruth was the saying in Ecclesiastes, cast your bread upon the waters, for it will return to you after many days. Sorry if I'm not talking loud enough. You guys won't use the microphone. Thank you. So, what that says, it's not, what it means is, if you cast bread upon the water, it's gone. You don't get it back. So it's saying, act towards others with kindness and do good deeds as if you expect nothing in return. But it has a saying that doesn't make sense. It will return to you after many days. And what I noticed when thinking about this is it doesn't say it will return to you after many days unless you die. So I want to share just a couple of recent things that Ruth has read to us and some that have come back. So, next slide, please. This is Naeli, and these are her birthdays. This is the one, this the smaller one, is 2020. Naeli loves music. She sings on at the chapel with a microphone, sometimes plays piano every week, every Sunday at the chapel. And she also loves to be in her room and paint while she's listening to music. And I got her an iPhone, got her headphones, and I thought that was fine. Then Ruth sends this simple little Bluetooth speaker, and that was Naeli's absolute favorite gift that year because she would play that in her room and it would free her up to just work on her art or do what she wanted to do. Now, Naeli thinks of Ramona as the aunt with kids, and Ruth she thinks of as the cool aunt, not the aunt without kids, but the cool aunt. So that made her even more cool. And Naeli wrote her a thank you email and was so excited when Ruth wrote back. And then this year, despite everything Ruth was going through, this is November, Ruth sent her a water bottle and a matching diary with a lock. Naeli's on the swim team, and also she does the singing at the chapel. And she uses a water bottle between meets and between swimming lanes. She uses one at the in the church services. And she was just thrilled with having a really nice water bottle. She was especially thrilled with the diary with the lock because no one can read it. I think she's concerned that David will read it, but I'm sure he can't read her handwriting at all. And he reads Italian better than English, so I don't think that's a problem. But to her, that was the coolest gift that she got. And that, I think, at some point, that piece of bread will come back to Ruth. Next one. Now this one, we got a cat a year and 2 months ago, and Ruth sent this stuffed fish that's mechanical that reacts when the cat plays with it. And I told her at first, okay, the kitten is afraid of it and won't do anything with it. And then I had some email conversations, told her, okay, she finally likes it. And then something happened that has given us a nightly reminder of Ruth. And it's not a good thing. So you see these two pictures. You see the cat carrying the fish around. Every night before she goes to bed, the cat goes all around the house carrying the fish, making the loudest noise a cat can make, which my wife asked me to make that for you. I practiced it today. I was walking over there. I tried to practice with nobody around. I sound like a cow when I'm doing it, so I can't do that. It sounds like a moo. But it is awful. And also, if she gets up in the middle of the night to do something, she'll find the fish and she'll walk around and do it again. So before I came here at 3 a.m., the cat was doing that again, and we were calling her saying, come here, please go to sleep here, please don't wake up the kids. So we think of Ruth every night in our house. We have a reminder. Okay, next slide. Now this is what Ruth sent me for my birthday. As Timothy talked about being a kid from the 70s. Oh, I don't need the microphone anymore. Here. Being a kid from the 70s, it's a mix of, when somebody reminds you of it, it's a mix of nostalgia and embarrassment. This, Ruth gave it to me, it made me smile, but it made me feel hugely embarrassed because I loved Donnie and Marie, and I even saw the movie, Going Bananas, I even know the name of it. And now I cringe and I feel embarrassed. My birthday is in August, the end of August, and Ruth's is the middle of October, and I'm like, I know what I want to do, but I can't do it in that short a time. So I had a plan. There is a company called Cameo that takes famous people and lets them make a video that you specify what they're going to say and give them information, and they'll send that back. So my plan, and this is a piece of bread that I really want to get to Ruth, was to quiz her about the TV show MASH. Bit by bit, because she loved the TV show MASH, and I wanted to find out things she loved and things she didn't like. And I was going to have one of two actors make a video for her and include two things, at least, that would make her feel embarrassed at the same time to get her back for this. But the two people that are available to do it are Loretta Swit, who played Major Houlihan, and Jamie Farr, who played Klinger. And I was really hoping her answers went for Jamie Farr. So I thought that would have been neat. And that was a piece of bread I wanted to go back to her. Next slide, please. Now, Ruth, when we were kids, did something unusual with Play-Doh. I will describe what she did with one thing. She put some white clay down, made the bottom of a skull cavity. She made a brain with that. She made an aneurysm. She put the rest of the skull on top of this with Play-Doh. She put skin on top. Then she put hair on top. And then she proceeded to use little tools and toothpicks to operate, open it, fix the aneurysm, close it back up, and then finish it. And she did that with chest operations, heart operations, all this kind of stuff. I knew when we were very young in elementary school, Ruth was going to go into medicine. Now, when September 11th happened, Mr. Rogers came out of retirement and made 4 videos to help families dealing with the tragedy. And his main message was, look for the helpers. Now, Ruth, to me, whenever I heard about this, I'd always think of Ruth. Ruth was a helper. And we're going to open this up to anyone else that wants to say anything about Ruth, which I'll do. I just have one last thing to say. I am very proud of our big sister.
So as Richard was saying, if someone would like to come forward this time and share a memory of Ruth or something, we'll just take a few minutes and let you do
Hello, good afternoon. I also looked at the meaning of the name Ruth. Biblically, it centers around friendship and gracefulness. I firmly believe she lived up to her name, my graceful friend. I first met Ruth at UNC in 2004. Amazement was my first impression of Ruth. I was amazed by her character, her integrity, her disposition. She was always kind and approachable to everyone, but also very private. But it didn't take long for us to become acquainted outside of work. And thankfully, not long after, to start our friendship. We share so many different types of moments together. I was lucky to find someone to share my affinity for good food, music, and laughter. Food was always an integral part of our times together. From visiting her very enjoyable piano bars, to movies, comedy shows, Disney, Vegas, there was always something new. I have to say that we laughed a lot, we cried, and sometimes we laughed so much until we cried. One time I was out of commission and she would come over on her days off from work, and we would just lay on the couch and binge watch all the seasons of Stranger Things. She just wanted me to watch that, and even though she already watched it at home, I think she did it just to lift up my spirits and keep me company. I can think of so many ways that she touched my life and those around her. But sometimes it's just the little things that must remind me of her. I'm going to quote Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Now I find myself asking a few questions. Who thinks they could teach me Zumba or the Michael Jackson Thriller choreography? Ruth, I have no rhythm, I tell her all the time. Where will I find a friend who could listen to Bee Gees music and then both get goosebumps when you get a mutual, enjoyable note? She would say, goosebumps, goosebumps. When does Ruth say you can't retire? Is a question my husband asked me a few times. She had it all figured out for me. And she always told me, you still got some time. That's what she always said. How could someone absorb so much information? Her truly amazing intelligence. Why? Why did you leave us so soon? I will not ask why, because through your life you shared your light and gave us cherished moments, but left us with such admiration, and I'm still amazed. Thank you.
Anybody else like to share?
And if you share, it doesn't have to be long, just be like short.
It'll be short. It's okay. So I just want to express gratitude again for everyone coming here. You know, there's many of you that we don't know. And I'm sure that if we had lived here, I would know you, because that's Ruth. So I just encourage you to stick around. I know we still have some concerns with COVID and whatnot. And just hang out and maybe share stories with one another about Ruth. There are some refreshments over here. And I'm going to put on some music that Ruth loved. And I queried some of you on that. I didn't query everybody, but hopefully we'll recognize it and enjoy it. So at this point, we're dismissed. So thank you very much.
Beautiful stuff.